In part one of the workforce management training, you learned all of the groundwork required to write an accurate schedule. Now in part two, we're going to go ahead and write a schedule. Once we open the hamburger menu and go into the scheduling section, we have a couple ways to kickstart our schedule and make it easier for us. The first option is if we choose to use templates. You'll see under template scheduling, I can review all of the templates for my store. I can also create a new template by clicking Create Week Template and giving it a name. If I choose manual, I'll need to remember to run this every single week myself. If I choose auto schedule, the template will run automatically Tuesday at 1 a.m. In this case, I'm going to choose manual. I now have a template called My Template. To assign shifts to this template, I simply click on a day for a team member and choose a time. Also important to choose which job you want them to work. In this case, I'm going to choose courtesy clerk. Once I've built my template, I can click the Save button. You'll see my template is now ready to be used. If I reopen my template, you'll see I can choose between manual and auto schedule. Again, if I leave it on auto schedule, Tuesday at 1 in the morning, this will run. If I leave it on manual, I can run it myself. Let me show you that now. Back under the scheduling section, I have a copy schedule. When I choose copy schedule, the first thing it wants me to do is review my time off requests. In this case, I have an empty list, so I'm going to proceed. Now I can copy this template. You can see copy schedule allows me to copy entire schedule weeks or to copy templates. In this case, I want to choose a template. My template was called My Template, and now I can choose which week I want to copy it to. For instance, I could copy this to the week of December 6th by now clicking Copy Schedule in the bottom right. It's going to point out that this particular week includes some schedules. Do I want to continue? In this case, yes, I'd like my template to override anything that's out there. Once the schedule is copied, you'll see the status will change from queued to finished. Copy schedule successful. Okay, that's templating. You don't have to template, however, I find it useful, especially for shifts that remain static week to week. For instance, I like to have a template of all my service desk. Those shifts usually stay the same. So I'd build a template for my service desk and copy it forward every week before I start writing my schedule. Okay. Once you've done your templates, you can actually go into the schedule editor now to review the templates as well as finish up your scheduling. The schedule editor has a few different views that you can use. The first view is called weekly view. You'll see in the drop-down box here, I can choose between week and daily view. I'm looking at a week that already has a lot of schedules. So you'll see they're color coordinated for me, and I'm viewing just the departments that I filtered down to. If I want to look at different departments, I click on my filter here. You can choose whichever departments or even job codes you'd like to look at. So for instance, if I want to look at my front end, but just look at cashiering, I can select this. And now I will only see those team members that have a cashiering job code. I'm going to go ahead and switch my filter back to show all jobs. And now to show how to put a schedule in, I'm going to go ahead and jump to a week that does not have schedules yet. You'll see December 6th was the one that I ran for the templates. So I have the one schedule that I templated now, ready to go. Making schedules on the weekly view is really easy. You can move around with either the keyboard arrows on your keyboard or by using the mouse and clicking. To add a schedule, you simply click Enter on the keyboard or double click on the mouse, and it will open a schedule for that day. To choose a time, you can either do the drop-down list, which is really only useful if you're on a touch screen, in my opinion. If you have a keyboard, it's faster to go ahead and do 7 to 3 p.m., or you can do military time. For instance, you could put a 15 here. You never need to put an AM. It always defaults to AM. So notice when I did 7, all I did was hit 7 and hit enter, and it went to AM. When you want PM, you can do a 3 and a P followed by enter, or again, you could just do military time, 15. Okay. Once you've chosen the time for the shift, you choose which job it will be. In this instance, this team member only has one job, so I'm going to choose courtesy clerk. You'll see that any breaks or meals that are applicable will automatically be entered for you. Now I'm going to hit apply. Once I have a schedule out there, if I want this person or another person to work this same schedule over and over, I can actually copy and paste this. So again, I can move around with the arrows on the keyboard. Once I highlight a shift, I can do Control C on the keyboard for copy. Now I can move to any day I want and do Control V for paste. So you could see you could quickly replicate schedules by remembering Control C for copy and Control V for paste. You can also do Control X for cut and again Control V to paste. Now this will permanently move the schedule instead of copy the schedule. Okay, that's the weekly view. When you're on the weekly view, you can change your filters as well. Let's go back to a current week that has a lot of schedules already. Okay, so what I mean by changing your view and your filter is by default, we're going to be ordered alphabetically. And you can see that by clicking on the employee title here. I can also sort by who has the most or least amount of hours, which is nice, or sort by who comes in on Sunday or Monday. So all of these column headings can be clicked on. You can also change your display by clicking the display button. If you, for instance, want to turn off job names, you can do that. Okay, now you know a few ways to put schedules in on the weekly view. Let's look at a week that already has a bunch of schedules like this. A couple things you'll notice. The weekly view is color coordinated for you, so you can see which job a team member is working at a glance. Notice cashiering is green and courtesy clerks are blue. Bookkeeping is brown, front-end supervisors yellow, so on and so forth. You'll also see when someone has time off, indicated by time off on the certain day. Okay, just like on the previous week, I could pull up this week and I could copy shifts and move them around, as well as delete shifts by clicking the delete button, or cutting shifts, Control X, Control V. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move this shift back. Okay, so that's the weekly view. The weekly view is best used when you are manually putting in schedules. So if you're, for instance, fixing the front end supervisor shifts or doing a perimeter department, I find this is the fastest way to put in a lot of shifts in a hurry, especially if you can 10 key fast. You can move around with the arrows, press enter, and type in times rapidly this way. Okay. Once you have templates done and any manual scheduling that you would like, for instance, I would always recommend putting in my front end supervisors before running the auto schedule. That way, if I have a front end supervisor that's also a cashier, I can ensure their front end shifts are satisfied first. So once you've done those templates and manual shifts, back under the scheduling menu, you have a run auto schedule option now. Once you go to run auto schedule, it's very similar to copying templates. The first thing it's going to make me do is review all of my time off requests. So in this case, you can see I have none. Keep in mind, you can also look at the calendar view as well, or the pending view. Once I click next to run my auto schedule, I simply choose the week I'm going to run it for, and always choose the AFS 1 labor run. This is the only labor run we have currently configured. Once you click Create Schedule down in the bottom right here, you'll see the auto schedule process. It'll take anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes to run, and it will tell you when the auto schedule is done. Once the auto schedule is done, you can come back into the schedule editor and view what changes it has made. Keep in mind, the auto schedule will never change manual shifts. So if you manually put in shifts, modified shifts, or ran templates, the auto schedule will never change those. You can run the auto schedule as many times as you want. The auto schedule is only going to populate shifts for job codes that have labor demand. For instance, cashiering, bagging, those type of shifts are going to be auto scheduled. Remember, in part 1, we talked about time off requests needing to be done and availabilities needing to be up to date for all your team members. The auto schedule will only give you a good schedule if you've ensured all of the availabilities are up to date and accurate for all of your team members. For instance, if Scott can only work 22 hours, but I haven't updated Scott's availability to have a max of 22 hours, you might be frustrated when the auto schedule runs and Scott ends up with 38 hours. So ensure you have all that groundwork done before you run an auto schedule. Okay, enough about running auto schedule. When we're back here in the schedule editor, you can see I am still at my week view, but I can also switch to a certain day. Okay, the week view again is nice for modifying schedules manually, but once I'm ready to fine tune and finish up my schedule, I really prefer the daily view. Let's jump to Saturday and show you what I mean. Okay, now with this view, I can again organize it how I want to see it. In my case, I like to click on the major heading here, and that will show me the earliest shifts to the latest shifts. You can also do alphabetically, but for me, I like to see the earliest shifts and the latest shifts. Okay, I'm also going to change my filter. For this instance, I just want to see cashiers and courtesy clerks. Okay, now I can see all my cashiers and courtesy clerks for Saturday. Just like on the daily view, my time off is also indicated on this view. You can see that by the black bars. If you have a solid black bar, that means someone has requested that day off and it's been approved. Okay, you'll also notice these gray bars. The gray bars are their availability. So for instance, this team member can only work from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m., indicated by the gray bars. To modify shifts in this view, you can simply drag and drop them. To extend them, you just simply drag them longer. In this case, you noticed, let's do that again. The duration of a shift for a miner can't be longer than the max hours per day. So in this case, it's going to prevent me from overscheduling a miner, which is nice. In this instance, this is not a miner, so you can see I can drag the shift to be as long or as short as I want. Okay. By the way, you can see employee details over here by their name. So for instance, I can see this is a 14, 15-year-old miner. Okay. So along with dragging shifts around, in this view, I can even drag shifts on top of other shifts. Okay. In that case, if I tried to drag this one on top of a miner, it's not going to let me because again, this shift is too long for a miner. So let's actually drag on top of this shift. And you'll see it lets me replace the shift if I want to switch these two. Okay. Other things you should be looking at when you're on the daily view. Down here in the bottom, you have a coverage button. It's really important you pay attention to your coverage. This will ensure you schedule the right amount of help at the right times. Once you pull up the coverage, it's recommended you choose a singular job code at a time. So for instance, let's look at cashiering. Okay, let's actually switch to a non-holiday week. And I'm going to again switch to cashiering. Okay, now down here on the bottom, there's a few things that I can see while I'm looking at my coverage. You'll notice that the blue line is the suggested coverage based on your sales forecast.